Hi, my name is Gene. You can call me Gene the Chemical Plant Operator. I'm a Texas Democrat. I live in Tom DeLay's old district. I have some things I'd like to say about this healthcare situation. First, a couple of salient points. Medicare. Administrative costs are 5% and falling. That means 95% of all the money that goes in there gets spent to help people. 5% goes for administrative costs. Private insurance companies, depending on which company you look at, it's somewhere between 15 and 20%, and it's rising. Some of these private outfits keep as much as 40% of every dollar. What are they doing with that money? Well, at least some of it's going to CEO salaries. Let's look at a couple of them. United Health CEO Stephen J. Hemsley. In 2007, he made $13.2 million. The interesting thing about him, though, is that he's got a unexercised stock option package valued at almost $750 million, billion with a B. That's $744 million stock options. That's what this guy is worth. Now, last year, he exercised $127 million of that. Interesting thing about that is if it's capital gains, and I bet it is, then he only paid 20% of that in taxes, and he didn't pay any of it. He didn't pay any Social Security tax on it. Compare and contrast that 20% with what you pay on your salary. Let's see. There's several examples. One more here. Edward Hanway. He got this was Cigna. He got a 5-year compensation package in 2008. It's worth $120 million. That's according to Forbes magazine. He has a stock options package of just under $29 million. Interesting thing about Cigna, they recently denied 17-year-old girl's claim for a liver transplant. She needed that to stay alive. Eventually, they did reverse their denial of that claim a couple of hours after she died. So that was a close call for Cigna. They almost had to pay for that. And maybe that would have come directly out of Mr. Hanway's $120 million if he had to spend a few $100,000 to save that girl's life. I don't know. The bottom line is, you want your death panels. These insurance companies are your death panels. You don't have to look any farther than the boardrooms of the insurance companies to find your real-life death panels. They deny claims at random. They don't care who dies. They don't care who goes bankrupt. And the more they do that, the more money they make. That's the way the system's set up. Now, these right-wingers will claim that if we have a public option, that's a form of socialism. Well, maybe it is. But let's look at some other socialism programs that we have in this country that people benefit from. How about the interstate highway system? That's paid for out of government funds. Anybody can use it. If you didn't have that, every road in the country will be a toll road. How would we like that? How about the local fire department? Fire department shows up, they put the fire out. They don't demand to see that your fire insurance policy is paid in full before they fall off the truck and go to work. Paid for by the government, everybody benefits. There's all kinds of things like that. The post office, the public schools, public libraries, public parks, interstate highway system, Medicare, only 5%. Social Security, everybody benefits from these things. These right-wingers, they hate it. The fact is, how much do they hate it? They hate it $378 million worth of hate. All right? Excuse me, it's not a high-tech operation. In the last month or so, these guys, $378 million, let's break it down. In the last month or so, they've spent $23 million, just in the last month or so, in campaign contributions. You can call them bribes if you want to, and I won't contradict you. They spent $75 million for television ads. They spent $280 million for lobbying. Now, I thought campaign contributions and TV ads, I thought that was lobbying. That's the biggest chunk, $280 million. I don't know what that is, but somebody got paid $280 million in their effort to stop you from having a public option in this healthcare thing. What is a public option? It just means it would be a fallback position for anybody. Anybody who was uninsurable. If you lost your job and you lost your insurance and your family lost their insurance, and you didn't have anywhere to turn because somebody had a pre-existing condition, this would be a place for you where you could go. You could walk in the door, they would insure you, no questions asked, and it would be affordable. The insurance companies are terrified of this because they want to be able to keep being able to just drop anybody at random. What kind of people do they drop? Let me give you an example that I know of. And I know this happens all the time. People with college-age children. Once your child turns 18 or 19 or whatever your policy's cutoff age is, they get dropped from your company insurance. Now, if they're going to college, typically there's a provision that so long as they're enrolled in school, they can continue to be on your insurance plan. But What if they're in college and they get too sick to go to college? The minute that they get dropped off the college rolls, they get dropped from your insurance. And now that child is not only too sick to go to school, they're uninsured and they're uninsurable. That's the kind of mercy you get from these insurance companies. If you like that, then help them vote down the public option. Another thing these right-wingers say, besides that it's socialism, is they claim that the government always messes up everything. The government's not perfect, but there are plenty of programs that the government runs just fine. I've already named some: the highway system, the post office. There's a whole bunch of them. Medicare, as a group, Medicare recipients are the most satisfied with their health care coverage. All right, but when they say that, when they say the government always messes up everything, so we need to leave it the way it is, what are they advocating? They're advocating leaving the health care delivery system in the hands of the same kinds of greedy, psychotic SOBs that ran the banking system off the edge of a cliff. They ran the entire world economy off the edge of a cliff. And then they say, oh, the government messes everything up. We know these guys. Now, first they get the laws changed to let them get away with whatever they want to, and then they run the country off and the world economy off the cliff so they can pocket some money. They did it. We know they did it. And then what do? They go to the government, the incompetent government that can't fix anything, whining and crying like a bunch of babies for trillions of dollars of our tax dollars. We gave it to them. We didn't have any choice. They were holding our pension funds hostage. But these are the people that are in charge of your healthcare system now. And they're trying to scare you about the government? That's ridiculous. It doesn't make a bit of sense to me. The bottom line is these right-wingers, they have been opposed to every kind of reform that has ever happened. It's happened in spite of them. You listen to them when they talk amongst themselves on the hate radio. They hate Medicare. They hate Social Security. They hate the public school system. They were against all those programs from the start, and they would still dismantle them if you give them half a chance. They tried to do it. They tried to privatize Social Security. That's just for the stock market crash. What kind of shape would we be in now if they had got their way on that? Not very good shape, I promise you. So they've been against. If you go back far enough, in 1939, they opposed the advent of federal child labor laws. But these same right-wingers, these same moneymakers, were complaining that they couldn't make a profit in their factories unless they had little kids in there doing the work. So that's them. They have a record of opposing any sorts of reform, and then once it gets in, trying to dismantle it as hard as they can. If you don't believe it, listen to the hate radio. They say it every day. I'm not making this up. So, the public option, it'll be a fallback position for everybody. And if it wasn't very good, then the insurance companies have got nothing to worry about. If it's better than them, they'd have to change. Maybe they wouldn't make as much money. They're so terrified of that, they spent $350 million in the last month trying to stop this option with a bunch of lies about death panels, about forced euthanasia of old people and wounded veterans. Come on! How ridiculous! The very ridiculousness of those statements proves that they don't have any real objections. If they had some real logical objections, and there's probably some out there, they'd trot them out. But they know that whatever logical objections they have are not enough to overcome the real problem that we have today. So they have to trot out these lies. Here's the bottom line, guys, and here's what we can do about it. If we let them get away with this, if we let these AR-15 toting 9mm hip packing dumbasses, if we let them show up and shout everybody down and get their way, then we're nothing but a bunch of sheep. We don't deserve to have decent health care. We deserve to not have it. Okay? So here's what I suggest everybody do. Write your congressmen and your senators. Everybody, you might not know this, you got 3 representatives in the federal government. You got 1 congressman, you got 2 senators. Go online, Google who represents me, plug in your address, it'll tell you who those 3 are. Sit down, write 3 letters. In each letter, 1 sentence. I demand the public option. Sign it, mail it. That's what I suggest. If these people get a whole bunch of these letters with 1 sentence that says, I demand a public option, they will pee their pants because they don't want to lose their jobs that they got now. They don't want to have to go out and get real jobs. So that's what we all need to do. It'll take you a few minutes. It'll cost you the cost of a stamp. Do it. Everybody needs to do it. Please do it. That's it. Thank you. Can't let them win. Can't let them win.